We are back on Slaughterhouse Sports, and A&M is spinning the wheel again. And now the wheel has landed on Michael Elko, otherwise known as Mike Elko, from Duke University. Now, Mike Elko was the defensive coordinator with Jimbo Fisher. Believe that he was maybe responsible for getting, a lot of guys that are still on scholarship to be a part of A&M. So he knows about, elite recruiting. He's been in College Station. He has a relationship with Ross Bjork. And some people might label Mike Elko and Bob Stoops in a similar light. But I'm going to argue why I believe that Elko is a better choice. And I'll do that, and I'm going to do that right now, okay? So Kevin Johns, it's going to be interesting. He was a guy who was an assistant offensive coordinator at Memphis under Silverfield, I believe, at Memphis. He might come with Mike Elko to A&M as well. But I'm going to mention Elko. So Elko, grew up in South Brunswick, just up there a couple weeks ago. It's around the Jersey Turnpike. So he's kind of a Jersey East Coast guy and spent pretty much, a lot of his coaching career up until 2008 on the East Coast. Then he was at Bowling Green for 4 years as a defensive coordinator. He then went to Wake Forest for 2 years, and he spent some time at Notre Dame 1 year before going to A&M for 3 years. So I believe he worked directly then. That would make sense. He worked directly with Jimbo Fisher. So, and he worked there until 2021. So he was part of that elite recruiting class. I believe like Walter Nolan and, all these edge rushing guys. That was the number one rated recruiting class. So he knows what it's like to recruit, a number one recruiting class, which is so important because he actually has ties to the university, which is what not a lot of candidates can say they have. The other thing about Mike Elko is Bob Stoops is 55 and Elko is 46. So that's a 10-year age difference there, okay? 10-year age difference. So in the prime of his coaching career, when you're in your late 50s, like you're probably going to do the job maybe 7-8 more years. Nick Saban has defied that. But also, I look at Riley Leonard and the quarterback developing because for a defensive coach, he developed Duke. First of all, he made Duke a 9-win program in his first year. And then this year, they were very competitive. They beat Clemson week 1. And then, they ended up losing 2 quarterbacks. They were starting their third-string quarterback in some of these games. They still managed to win 7 games in the ACC with Riley Leonard being out a significant amount of time. And Riley Leonard progressed under Mike Elko's staff into being an NFL quarterback. So Riley Leonard is known to be is known to be a story of development. They have solid players at Duke. They rarely get blown out. I know it's the ACC. There definitely is, some risk to this hire. It's not the splashiest name. A splashier name would have, of course, been Ryan Day. Of course, it would have been Dabo Swinney, who's won national championships. It would have been, even a James Franklin or a Lincoln Riley. It would have even been Joey McGuire or Jeff Traylor. Traylor's in his 40s as well. Traylor has a ton of energy. I think the Traylor would have been very interesting at Texas A&M, but I don't think we're going to ever know about it. So with all the mess last night around what was it? Mark Stoops, with all of the Mark Stoops mess, A&M, I bet that there were some candidates this morning that really, understandably so, were disinterested in speaking with A&M because of the fiasco of last night. Because A&M and Mark Stoops, apparently, it looked like they agreed to a deal because there was so much smoke. I mean, every source, including Billy Lucci, who does the best job at Tex Ags, was reporting that Mark Stoops was like a done deal. Sports Illustrated on 3, everybody was hearing the same thing last night, and it was a miniature disaster. Now, the fire was put out maybe because Mark Stoops just didn't want to go on with the charade anymore. But otherwise, it made Ross Bjork look completely incompetent. It was absolutely embarrassing that you offer a guy a job and then you take it back because of booster or fan pressure. That's insane. You can't do that. You got to have a backbone and you got to have confidence. A lot of times, popular opinion is not always correct, and you need to stick to your guns as an athletic director or as a decision maker and evaluate, and then when you actually pledge loyalty and shake a guy's hand, your handshake's got to mean something. And last night, apparently it meant nothing. And it made me angry because I'm thinking about Mark Stoops and what is he going to say to his Kentucky players? Oh, that A&M thing, that I never was interested. Or to his family. Or it just... And then if you're A&M and you think that Mark Stoops is taking the job and then Mark Stoops doesn't take the job, it looks a little bit, I don't know. I mean, then you really never had Mark Stoops to begin with. So I don't know. Maybe no one will ever know that story. So Mike Elko, the reason why he could be more solid than Mark Stoops is Mark Stoops has never made it to Atlanta. Mark Stoops is like 2-21 against opponents in the top 25. He's beaten Kentucky, or he's beaten Tennessee and Florida, but that was when they had, Dan Mullen at the end there, Jim McElwain at the end, Jeremy Pruitt. They in the SEC East, you could still win those types of games. And he's been at Kentucky for a while. He's done okay, but he's also had to fire a lot of offensive coordinators. And a good argument, though, for Mark Stoops, I will give you this, is that Mark Stoops was there 10 years. So you're going to find a lot more flaws in somebody in a 10-year span than only a 2-year sample size at Duke. So, and Duke is a much different job than Texas A&M. But really, in the search with Ross Bjork, I could get on Ross Bjork a little bit. I mean, I think that the search was not really done. I think that they could have even gotten somebody even better than maybe a Mike Elko. I'm talking about a Lincoln Riley, and Lincoln Riley's made the playoff. Lincoln Riley's still one of the brightest minds in all of offensive football. I think he could have built something. He's from Texas. I look at other guys, that are out there. I think that Mike Norvell, I'm surprised he wasn't interested in the job, or Lane Kiffin wasn't interested in this job. I'm surprised. I think that those would have been A hires. I think Mike Elko is a B hire, not a B plus, probably not a B minus, but a B hire. I think that Stoops is like a C to a C minus. Stoops would have had you just like in Jimbo Land, which is 7-5, 8-4. Even though he improves by going to A&M, the competition's going to get much, much harder. So Mike Elko, you do have a chance. There is a chance that he hits big. He was absolutely almost perfect at Duke, considering he lost his quarterback. He was at A&M, so he has those ties. He knows what it's like to recruit big because he was on the staff. He even probably knows Marshall Malkow and all of the people that recruited that brilliant 2020 recruiting class that even Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin were out there openly complaining, openly whining about how good that recruiting was. The boosters, people around A&M must know Mike Elko and must like Mike Elko. People are comfortable. So this is a hire that can kind of be more, cohesive with Texas A&M. This is a hire that more people will be going in the same direction about. I think that, honestly, if you never had the Mark Stoops thing, you could have even been out there for a Lane or a Mike Norvell. You could have even, assessed if you wanted a James Franklin at the end of the day. You could have maybe even looked at a Glenn Schumann. These guys even have a higher upside than probably Elko. Look at Elko, and I think that he can do an all right job there. I think it's going to be a 10-win job. It is not, again, like Dan Lanning or a Kalen DeBoer. Like, there's some coaches in college football that are just dynamite, that are absolute rock stars. Like Kirby Smart is absolutely elite. And Mike Elko, I think, is a pretty good hire. Again, I argued why it's better than Mark Stoops. But still, there's guys out there that might have better scheme that would make it a B plus or an A to me. I even think Lance Leipold with his offense, like with how good both quarterbacks, with the stats they put up at Kansas and the type of misdirection, he's a guy that would have been interesting. But considering the mess, but again, that's a criticism, because it was so disorganized and because it's so rushed, you end up getting Mike Elko, which is fine. I don't think that the fan base is going to revolt. I haven't checked in again on their opinions, but I do like Elko more than I like Stoops. I like him a little bit more than Stoops. Do I think that this could be national title? Maybe not. Maybe, but again, the competition's going to be really hard. I think, though, that you could look at a Gary Pinkel or a really solid coach, and with the Jimbo, with all the buyout money going out now, you look at the situation and maybe they didn't want to spend huge on a coach. So for what they ended up getting, it's fine. And I believe that Elko can take the program from, which is 8-4, 7-5, and complete incompetence on offense and kind of a moody Jimbo Fisher, and get it to like 9 or 10 wins. Get the program rolling a little bit. Get the program going on a better trajectory. And then, by the way, you become an even... Maybe then you get your ultimate coach that can then come in there. I just don't really see Elko like building a dynasty at A&M. I see him being pretty good though. I see like 10 wins, 9 wins, good defense, good offense. It's not the home run of home runs, but solid double. It's a pretty good hire, okay? I'm going to give it like a B or a B minus. Now, A&M though, right? So if you win 9 games at Michigan State, you're a rock star. You're A+. If you win 9 games at Mississippi State, you're an A. You're an A. But at A&M, the job is very hard because you expect the best of the best. You pay for the best of the best. So you pay to be in the college football playoff and contend for national titles. So it is a harder grading scale for Mike Elko to achieve. Okay, Jimbo Fisher even won himself like 8 games sometimes, right? The job is hard. So it's going to be hard for Mike Elko to fulfill the expectation. The odds are against him fulfilling it with how hard the SEC is going to get. But recruiting is key. Offensive coordinator is key. But we'll see what happens. We believe that this could happen. Let's see if Mike Elko stays as the coach today. Again, I gave you guys my opinion on him. High expectations. I think it's an all right to pretty solid hire. Really do. And with connections to A&M. What do you guys think about it? Let me know. Mike Elko, the new name now at A&M.